Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Eboule. I'm a Ph.D. student at the University of Johannesburg, and today we are going to talk about Pan Africanism in the institution of higher learning. So I would like to tell you a little bit about what is Pan Africanism. In 1900, the term Pan Africanism was used for the first time at a conference in the United States to define the political ideology that promotes the total freedom of the African continent and encourage solidarity amongst Africans wherever they are in the world, regardless of their religious affiliation or their ethnicity. So every time you believe that the African country border should collapse, you are a Pan-Africanism. Every time you believe that the travel between different African countries should be free, you are a Pan-Africanism. Every time you believe that we have to increase the exchange rate between African countries, you are a Pan-Africanism. And we are here today to talk about it. So this is my own understanding about Pan-Africanism. Now, what is Pan-Africanism supposed to look like in institutions of higher learning in Africa? Some institutions like the University of Johannesburg are trying to encourage Africans to register with the institution with many advantages. And some of those advantages are like the international levy fee, which is only 2,000 rand. You see, if you compare 2,000 rand, which is something like $50 US dollars, it is really less expensive. When you are an African and you are studying abroad in Europe or in the United States, your fee is almost double compared to a citizen from that country. So it is a good step forward. Also, there is something called African by bus, which is a trip to travel over some country in Africa. I think it is a good thing the university has implemented just to develop the Pan-Africanism, just to bring students understand what is the Pan-Africanism, because travel between African countries is also another way to support the economic freedom of Africans. So in 2016, in South Africa, we were facing some xenophobia attack, and the university was not tolerant about those involved on that. So it is a Pan-Africanism. The university tried as it can to stop it. And we did not have those problems. In my university, it may have happened somewhere else in South Africa, but those are the types of measures we can take to promote the Pan-Africanism in our institutions. So we also have to know that this is not enough on my knowledge, because the exchange program between African institutions is close to 0%, which is a real problem. How come 54 countries in Africa don't have exchange program amongst them? It is a real problem. The concept of Pan-Africanism is not well known in our institutions. I don't think there is some modules talking about Pan-Africanism, even in history. I don't think in Africa we have those modules encourage Pan-Africanism within our institution or encourage students to be a Pan-Africanist. This should be done. And because more we have Pan-Africanists, more Africa will go forward. to know how in our community, within institutions of higher learning, we can promote African unity. It is starting by the promotion of African unity in the institution of higher learning by the primary school. What I want to say is, if we think we can start to promote Pan-Africanism in higher school or in higher learning institution, it's too late. That is what I think. That is why I believe. Because when you are a young man, when you are a child, that is the moment to start love your mother, to start love your father. So it is not possible to wait for you be adult before embrace those concepts. You have to start loving Africa when you are still young. Why are we not implementing those measures in primary school to make our children understand what is the challenge we are facing? We have to train our children about love and respect of African continent. However, teaching the true history of Africa, written by African, will be a step forward. I remember back home in Cameroon, because I'm from Cameroon, they call people who fought during the colonialization, they call them Makiza. What does Makiza say? Makiza say you are a killer, simply like that. So those our leaders who were fighting against colonialism, but because the history was not written by African, they have been called killer, which is not fair. Of course, they were killer to save our life, killer to save our freedom, which is what we are looking for. So you have to understand that what is good for you may not be good for others. And if others are writing your own history, they will write it as they want. So today, we have to try our best to write our own history. It is very important. Let us forget about thinking that the religions will come and change something. You can see everywhere in Africa, a lot of churches, everywhere. That is not what can save us from being colonized as we are now, because this has not yet the end. So I believe the institution of higher learning should create some compulsory module to promote the unification of Africa. I'm doing engineering. When they train you to do something in engineering, you understand it very well, because those people have been trained also. We have people who understand the Pan-Africanism very well. They can train people also to understand the concept and apply those concepts. Let me take an example. How many are you can walk, let's say for 5 kilometers, to go and buy something to a Black South African shop? How many? That is an act of Pan-Africanism. In Israel, they have a concept. They say, when you have money, your money should go at least on 10 hands before go out of your community. What does that mean? If I want to buy something, I should go to my neighbor, which is my friend, which is my brother African. 10 times the man should do the same until we use that money, and then we will be able now to move that money in our community. That is a very big concept of development. If we were doing that, do you know how much is going to be the economic of African countries, how developed it's going to be. It is very important. Also, one of the key of this concept is to implement some forum or colloquium where we are going to decolonize mentality. We have to decolonize our mentality. How many of us, when we are going maybe to university, when we are going to our workplace, are wearing African clothes? How many? You don't know how deep it is when a single person takes action. I will take a simple example to illustrate this. Let's say we have 50,000 students in one university, and then we decided to implement 3 days African cultures, or 3 days to wear per week to wear African clothes, African dress. 3 days per week times 50,000 students, and you have one clothes per day. If each clothes is only $10, that is more than $150, $150,000 you will be developing within your community, which is too much if 10 universities can apply the same thing. So those are the types of concepts we should try to implement. You see, each one can do it. I can dress like this going to school. You can do the same. You don't want to wait. You don't have to wait for your leaders to tell you to take action for you to do it. Those are some of the key we have to understand. And in those institutions, we also believe that we have to mix staff coming from various nationality, African nationality. If you are good, if you can do your job, you have to be called by that university. You have to be hired by that university to do the job they are expecting from you. It is very important to develop an economy. You cannot fight against those big countries if your economic is down. Look at the war we have today between China and United States. Both of them can survive just because they have a powerful economy. If that war was between United States and the whole Africa in this form we are now, we won't survive. We need to survive. We have to take actions, and those actions is now. So, what is so challenging for university to have student exchange across continent is the matter of funding. There's nothing yet, nothing more than that. Matter of funding. What is the budget of one university in Africa compared to the biggest one we have in Europe, in Asia? If you compare, you will see that we are very far behind. So the reason is funding. Many exchange programs are financially dependent of European and American countries. And this is the opportunity for colonialists to brainwash our best students. Remember that those who are selected to go to United States to study, to go to Europe to study, sometimes they come back to lead us, to manage us. They want to be president in our country, which is their country also. But initially, they have been brainwashed. That's why you will find that there is a lot of war in Africa. Because if they don't achieve what they have signed sometime, it may happen. We have to take it into consideration. You will find that there is maybe some war somewhere in Africa just because of that. Let me take an example to show you that also. If you know what is happening right now in Ivory Coast, where President Gbagbo was there, and today he's facing a difficult time because during 2010 election, the international community say he lose elections, and they put President Ouattara, which is there right now. President Ouattara studied in United States, and he was, during that time, Burkinabe. But now, he's saying he's Ivory Coast. He's from there. Just because the former president decided to hire him. He was a Pan-Africanist president. He decided to hire him as a prime minister to come and lead the country. And he's studying in the United States under another nationality. So he used the money with the relationship he has to destroy the country, which is Ivory Coast now. Why they want to remove Gbagbo as president? Because he decided to go out of the safer fund, which is the money 14 countries in Africa are using, coming from the French part, led by French. It's not an African currency. So those are the challenges. If your population cannot understand what you are doing, if people who are with you cannot measure exactly the importance of Pan-Africanism, it's not going to help us. We should try our best to do something for ourselves. That is only how we can survive. What are some of the challenges studying at different universities on the continent? Most of the time, when you travel to go around Africa to study, even if you are not going only in Africa, every time you are leaving your home place to go somewhere else to study, you will have some challenges. First of all, you have to overcome the language barrier. My background is a French background. I had to come in South Africa and study in English. I did all my degree in French, and I have to study my postgrad in English. It was a big challenge for me, but I overcome it, and all Africans can do it. Despite the fact that English and French are not our own languages, but we can take it and do something with it.
We have Tandile wanting to ask a question. Tandile, please ask your question.
Hi, sorry, I was doing something else. So I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my question is, what can we do to ensure that not only looking at it from a top level, but rather how can we start educating people on the ground? Because I'm hearing a presentation and it's more focused on like top level rather than the bottom, which is your major population, your people in the townships, your rural areas, those kind of people. How can we make sure that they are part of the conversation and we plant the seeds of Pan-Africanism at a very young age in kids, but also at a very big or larger platform?
I get what you say. That is a good question. First of all, you have to be an ambassador. You are here today. It means you may be the most educated within your community. So you have to be an ambassador. Talking with your people is very important. Explain to them, as I was saying before, can you walk for 5 kilometers only because you want your money to stay within your community? You should be able to do that. That's how Chinese are surviving today. That's how Pakistanis are doing You will never open your restaurant today. You will not see a Chinese come and eat there. Even if there's only one restaurant in Johannesburg, a China restaurant, the man will prefer to travel to go there and eat. It is very important, the economic part of Pan-Africanism. It is very important. How can you convince someone to dress as an African? It is even cheaper. Do you have to convince someone? I think we should learn that even to our child. That is if we start only with 10 years, we can solve this issue. Only with 10 years. If you dress your child and show to your child how nice the dress is, the guy will never try to dress as a white man, as a European, or as an American, because he believes that the way I dress is nice. Love yourself. Love yourself. Love your culture, the way you dance, the way you talk. Love your language. In South Africa, it's even better than some other countries, because here you have like 12 languages you are speaking. You know, back home where I stay, where I'm coming from, we have many languages, but none of those languages have been taught, even at the primary stage. Did you imagine? Only French and English. If you're not in the French part, you are in the English part. That's all. So it's even worse in our side.
I don't know. And for me, the problem is I come from a township background, and the way you're explaining it's easier said than done, because Afrophobia is very normalized in my communities. And for me, I've always wondered how I can reach as many people in order to make them unlearn the Afrophobia that they've learned, not only towards other Africans, but also towards other tribes in the country as well. South Africa is a country that lives in isolation. So you tend to find that Xhosa lives in Eastern Cape and in Cape Town. Tswana people are in Johannesburg and so forth. So we don't really have enough space to interact. But after I came to university, I came to interact with so many more people, and I unlearned all that I learned. So for me, it's a thing of how do I ensure that I am part of the unlearning process of not only just people I am in communication with, because that too becomes very tricky, because it's very hard to make people unlearn what they've come to normalize. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm asking, like, what other things can we do in order to make sure that our communities aren't left in isolation, and we plant the seed of Pan-Africanist at a very, very larger platform?
The simple thing is to make them understand that this is your brother. You are my brother. I am your sister. I think that is the simple thing to do. That is how to convince them that, look, when you are fighting against maybe a Nigerian, not all Nigerians are bad. Not all Nigerians are selling drugs. Not all Nigerians are scammers. You understand? Maybe now, do you have to go to the radio, have some some show where you are going to talk about it? Yes, that is also another process. But you are going to say how many people are listening to the radio. You see, I believe not spending a lot of money and a lot of your time, first of all, give you 10%. I'm going to speak with 10%. And make sure that those persons speak also to 10 other persons. You will see how far away what you are talking about will go. So I don't think there's like a magic plan we are going to use to convince people to adhere to this idea. You know, there are some people who hate their mother. There are some people who love their mother. That is going always to be like that. And we have to deal with those types of persons. You have to try to convince the person that you should love your mother. Our own motherland is Africa. You can try to convince the person you are staying with by saying, okay, don't buy food here. Let us go to town for those who are staying in Joburg. Let us in Johannesburg. Let us go to town. Don't go to Pick and Pay, which is close. Don't go to Shoprite, which is close. Let us go to town because those are the poorest people in South Africa that are coming there to sell stuff, groceries. So let us go there and spend our money there. Imagine if you are spending 1,000 rand every month in town to buy grocery to the poorest people who are developing the economic of your population. That is what I do.
Patrick, I think,
yes.
Just adding to Tandile's comment about, so before we reach the economic stage of Pan-Africanism,
Yes.
there's the social aspect of it. So where we say, so that I can understand that, okay, Patrick is from Cameroon and Temi is from Nigeria, Tinashe is from Zimbabwe. And so instead of me othering you, how can we move from just, not being xenophobic? Because before I can be economically interested in Tinashe and Temi's businesses, I need to understand that, like you said, they're my brothers, we're from the same continent and whatnot. That seems to be lacking in many parts of the continent, and from my own perspective in South Africa. So how then, from a lower level, discuss the fact that, hey, you don't hate on this person simply because of where they're from. And I personally, for one, think that it's also from an educational perspective, when we talk about social sciences, when we talk about visiting, a lot of us think of visiting in Australia and whatnot, but going to Zim or going to Nigeria is not an option. So those are the type of, how do we then normalize the conversation of Ubuntu in African context from that level?
As I was explaining to you, look, the simplest things I'm going to say that you can't force someone to do it, but it's to talk with the person. It's to explain to the person that this is a Black African. And what I'm taking the economic part and bring it down is because you don't understand, you don't imagine how the economic has an influence in everything we do. Yes, to convince you to be my brother, to love me, can you convince someone to love you? It is quite difficult. It is quite difficult, but especially if the person is not educated. Especially if the person is not educated. So back home, you can convince the person to go and buy something to the closer shop if the person is a Black man. You can convince. What I'm trying to say is, if we develop our economic part in Africa, we will be more powerful. I don't want you exactly doing like what people are doing, bring everything down only in the concept of South Africa, only in the concept or in the area of Congo or in the area of Cameroon. I want you to understand that the problem you are facing right now, many countries in Africa are facing the same problem. And why are we facing that types of problem? Just because we are hungry. We are hungry because people are not taking us into consideration. We are also hungry because we need food. But you don't understand that after you have done those parts, after you are satisfied because you ate well yesterday, you sleep well, you will be able to move forward. You will be able to love your brother more. I don't know if you understand. One day I was watching it was an interview about a South African which is a killer. That is his job. He said that to the journalist, I am a killer. My job is to kill. If you pay me to go and kill someone, 5,000, I will go and do it. Just because I need to eat. What does that mean? The economic is the foundation of even the love. How many people have divorced just because the economy in their family is down? So that is where I want you to take that is where I want to take this conversation and try to make you understand how deep it is, the economic part of this fighting we are doing. So I don't know if you get me, but that is the answer I can give you.
Patrick,
Now,
so sorry
yeah.
to interrupt you. I understand the economic part, and I agree with you when you say it's very important that as Africans we sustain and our own economies first. But then, how do we then English? How do we then foster economic sustainability if there is an othering of each other as Africans? Because if it is already hard that as Africans we don't trade with each other, like for example, Ghana doesn't trade tea with South Africa, whatever the point, whatever that might be. If we can't even trade our own natural resources with each other because we all have perceptions of what the other is, how do we then sustain our economies from a community level? Because if the othering is already prevalent at national and at national level, how does that then help with local level in terms of sustaining our own economies?
I believe you are spending at least 500 rand every month to eat. How many times have you went to like the poorest people selling groceries just to buy to them, just for them not to go and steal, just for them to keep their own family? I believe that is how we can start. Don't wait for our leader, our president, to start make the trade amongst our country or between our country before we can take those actions. We can start at the small levels. And if the exchange is already big at some level amongst us, we are the simplest, like the simplest citizens, then we can move forward. It's like you are trying to beat at the university degree or having a university degree while you have not done the primary school. That is basically, we want to have biggest trades amongst our countries. Yes, we can do it. But what if our leaders are not ready to do that? What if they're not? How are we going to force them? Okay, I will take an example. When you are striking sometime in South Africa because maybe they're not paying you well, or have you ever seen people striking because there's no trade between Zimbabwe and South Africa? Because there's no trade between maybe Congo and South Africa? Have you ever seen people? I think also because some people are not aware of this. Some people don't even know what is Pan-Africanism, what is the importance of doing that. So that's why it is very important to discuss within our community and try. I'm saying let us start at the lowest level. And it won't take 10 years for us to change totally. Because let's say I have 5 brothers and I'm able to convince them that don't buy your stuff here, don't buy your grocery here, but go on that other place to buy. I am able to do that. If you can do it, trust me, you have achieved a lot already. Only 5. Unless those 5 convince also 5 other people, you will see how far it's going to go.
So Patrick,
sorry.
Okay, sorry. So Patrick, and what you're saying here is basically that in order for Pan-Africanism to thrive and in order for us to become a united entity, socially or otherwise, is to first start basically in our homes, to start by
Exactly.
Local businesses. And thereafter, so before we can even trade at a regional level, how about we trade within ourselves? Is that
Exactly. That is what I'm talking about. If you don't love the one who is closer to you, how are you going to love someone who is very far? How can you love a Ghanaian, which is, let's say, 7,000 kilometers away from you, while you have your South African border with maybe from Kosa, and you are a Pegi, and you don't love each other. How is it going to be possible? Don't also expect to travel for the whole South Africa before travel abroad, going maybe to Zimbabwe, going maybe to Malawi to see how things are going there. Because the reality is the South African culture is quite the same. But going somewhere else, you will find that people don't have the same behavior like you. I will take an example. Back home in Cameroon, we love stranger people more than we love each other. What does that mean? If you go there right now and you say, I'm coming from South Africa, people will more be open with you than me. But you have to travel there to understand that how we love people, how we love to see people coming abroad just to visit us, to be with us. You see, and for many Africans, it exists. For many African countries, it exists. This is my second African country, except my country I have been, and you will find that many people are not open, just because also of education. Remember that Black South African also started studying in South Africa in 1994, which is a problem. That will take a little bit time for them, for the population to study. Sorry? I was saying Black people started studying in South Africa, it was around 1994. So it is a little bit, the majority of the population of the South African population is not yet educated, well educated. It will take a little bit time for people to understand what is the challenge of African, what is the challenge of each of us. And the challenge is very big, to convince people about this Pan-Africanism subject. The challenge is big, the challenge is huge. And if all of us, we are ambassadors of this, I'm sure we don't need 10 years to change. Look at what is happening in United States. 100 years ago, the Black African in United States were 40% of the population, 14% of the population. Today, 100 years later, they are 12% of the population. Why? They are giving born more than the white people. Why is it like that? Because they have been killed. If you cannot even use your word to condemn those acts, those behavior, those white supremacists, do you think that what are you going to do if you cannot even use only your word to condemn it? Say, I condemn it. Write it on your social media, or maybe go and like some of the publication coming from there to say, I condemn these types of actions. Those are the minor measure we can take, because the major or the use measure we have to come from our leaders. But in our side, we should be able to do something. You see, so let us not go far away from the topic, or I will take the question, some of the question at the end. But we were talking. Remember that the topic is about the Pan-Africanism within the institution of higher learning. So I prepare some of the topic, some of the highlight to discuss about it and try to explain exactly how in the level of university we can act, we can behave, we can do things to change what is going on right now in Africa. So this point now, I'm talking about what are some of the challenges we are studying at different what are some of the challenges of studying at different universities on the continent? So I was saying the overcoming of the language barrier, which is one of the challenges. So to speak English when you are coming from the French background is a challenge. To speak maybe French, if you are coming in the English sector or background, is a challenge. So getting used to currency difference. Every time when you are going to buy something in the market, you always have to convert. Okay, back home this money is equal to, every time you will try to do those equivalents, which is also a challenge. And be far from your lovely ones is also a challenge. Be far from your family. Be far from your friends. You are going to have new friends. You have to adapt to the new culture. It is also some of the challenge. You have to familiarize yourself with the food you have now. It's also a big challenge. So the mission of African Matter is also to promote this idea. So how can this conversation we have now can be expanded? I think that is what we were talking about some few minutes ago. How can this can be expanded across our institution and community? So I have some few idea about what we can do. The first thing is to sensitize Africans. That is the first thing. Every time you are talking about your neighbor, your homemate, you should sensitize the person. You should talk to the person. Why is it important to believe or to behave as an African, to dress as an African, to take 3 days or 4 during your week when you are going to the university, when you are going to shop, when you are going to town, when you are going to dance somewhere, to dress as an African. If you are doing that, you will develop one, your economic, you will develop also your religion, because we as Africans, we have our own religion. We have our own religion, which is the Ubuntu. You understand? How can we develop that part? It's the sensitization of our African brothers. Also, people usually talk about the poverty, how African is poor. But people don't understand what means the poverty in the African ideology. First of all, the poverty in the African ideology does not mean you don't have a car, does not mean you don't have horses, does not mean you cannot afford to travel, and so forth, so on. So the poverty is not having maybe children, not having families, not having or being chased from your community, not having land. I remember that in the history they will say, when you were an African, your father, he has many land. When you grow up, he will take one land, maybe far, 10 kilometers. Let's say if he has a 10 kilometers land, he will go and put you somewhere else to develop your own community or your own family. Not having land is a problem. That is being poor. It means you can be rich because you have money, you are an African, but you don't have a land. It is a problem. That's why South Africa is fighting for that, which is a real problem, which is a good, it is a reason. It is a reason, it is a Pan-African reason, fighting for a land. Look at what Mugabe did, President Mugabe. He waited South African to finish, to finish with the apartheid before he collected back the land, because he knows not having a land is a problem. So that is the poverty in terms of Africa ideology. Also, one of the points is all of us should be African ambassador. I have been saying that. All of us. Because Every time you will be talking with your friend, with your brother about Pan-Africanism, about some key, what to do, why do you have to go and buy stuff in an African shop? It is a step forward. It is a good step. We also have to introduce on our learning program, the Pan-African ideology. It is very important. It does not exist. If our books, history books, are not writing by African for African, it means it's writing against Africa. I don't know if you understand what I mean. If the books we are using is not writing for African by African, it means it's writing against African. That's why, like me back home, they have been calling our ancestor killers in the book we are using, even at the university level, because they were fighting for independence, for freedom, for total freedom of Cameroon. And it happened in many African countries. So remind also to our leader, we have to remind to our leaders the challenge we have to overcome. When you are going to start every time, don't forget to write some nice word for Africa. Don't forget the necessity to unify. If we don't unify, there's nothing to do. We will die. That is the reality. We will not survive. If you want to understand very deep what can happen to Africa in the next 20 years, you can see what is happening between United States right now and China. Everything in this world is based on economic side. Everything, whatever you do, is based on the economic side. Because people are striking in South Africa and destroying goods and services because the economic is bad. We are talking about this Pan-African issue right now because the African economic is very bad. That's why we are talking about it. So the first ideology of this Pan-African issue came because of the development of the economic of Africa. When you have a powerful economic like China, even your population becomes powerful. People start respecting your population. If you travel abroad, you will see how people are not respecting African just because they know that you are coming from a poor continent. Just because of that. When you say I'm coming from the United States, directly they see a powerful country. When you say I'm coming from China, they see a powerful country. I'm coming from France, I'm coming from Belgium, Italy, they see a powerful country. I'm coming from Europe, powerful organization or association. So the economic part of this challenge is the main challenge we have to focus on. It is the main challenge. That is how Eboule did to develop Israel. They focus on the challenge of the economy. So, on the conclusion of this topic, I'm going to say the world is a forest where Black Africans are herbivores and others are carnivores. So we have to unify ourselves to face those people. We have to be one to be able to fight against those people. So let us unite to survive, or stay divided and die. There's Samora Machel, who was a Mozambican president. He died in October 1986 at the age of 53. He said, the day you will hear a white man, a European man, talking good on my name, know that I'm not longer working for you. It is a very powerful word. Because everything you will hear about our leaders, about Africa, about how we have to develop, coming from white European people, is not always what we have to do. We have to think ourselves to see if what we are doing is the right way to do. We have to develop our own economy, the way we understand it, the way we love it. We have to develop our own politics, not the way they want things to be done. Because look, they will tell you that every 5 years you must have elections and change the president. They are not stupid saying that. They are not stupid. Show me only one country in Europe that has been developed with the democracy we are applying now. It's after they have been developed, then they start applying that democracy they're talking about right now. It doesn't exist. Look at how China is going. I have been in China. It is a very nice country. It is very clean. It is really, it's very nice. They don't have election there. So each part of our life should be has to be developed. Each part developed as African want it to be. As I said before, everything which is done for us and we are not included, it is done against us. Thank you. So I'm going now to take any question you have, and I will give some of the answer about it. So if there's any question, yes, we can go forward. Thank you.
I just have one question. So with regards to, so you said that the only reason there's no exchanges within the universities in the African continent, or there's a lack thereof, is because of funding. Do you think that if there was funding, young people would want to travel in different parts of the continent? Do you think we're at that level where young people are very much interested to travel within the continent?
We are talking, I think, yes, young people want to travel in the African continent to discover what is going on somewhere else. But the exchange program is not those young people who are going to take the decision, because it doesn't exist. It's our leader, it's our vice chancellor who should decide to take those actions and store the exchange program within the African countries. We prefer to go in Canada, we prefer to go in the United States, we prefer to go in China to study. Why? Even in Africa, in some African countries, something great have been doing there. Let me take an example in Ghana. 2 young guys, they didn't go to school to do that. They developed a satellite and it's working very well. It has been launched already by the Japanese agency, satellite of telecommunication. Why some of our university cannot go and discuss with those young guys to come and train others? Is this possible? Those are the exchange program I'm talking about. Do we need really to go where it is more expensive? And trust me, there's nothing free. Even when there's exchange program, I'm talking about the funding, and it's those people who are going to provide the fund. It is not for free. They know where they are going to take it back. They are going to take it with your natural resources. First of all, it's not you who is deciding how much it is. It costs your natural resources. Those are the places that are going to take back the money they are spending. So the research, which is the part of our education that can develop Africa, is not much taken into consideration. So we should think also about it. How can we develop the research part for what we need, for what is good for us? Not develop something we just want to go and sell abroad. No. Yes, it is necessary to go and sell, but we need, like, I need to eat, first of thing. You need to eat. Does the food you are eating, are you the one who has the farm to make those food go up? I don't know. If you have to wait for the rice coming abroad before you eat, it means the day they are going to have war between Africa and the country you are importing those groceries, they can decide just not to sell you rice anymore. So it is very important to develop what you need before. Any other question?
Yeah, I don't think there's any more questions. So Patrick, thank you so much for hosting a webinar, and thank you so much for giving us insight on Pan Africanism within institutions of higher learning, as well as sharing how us supporting local businesses and supporting local economies is actually a step towards Pan Africanism. Starting just right at home before we can expand throughout the continent. So thank you and enjoy your weekend further.
Thank you so much to you and enjoy your weekend. I wish African will be developed very soon with the action we are going to take. And I wish all the best to Africans who are suffering everywhere in the world. I wish our leader will take action for us to be united. And I wish the best to our motherland, Africa. Thank you.
Thank you.